In the early 1970s, two Brown University professors devised a radical plan for their time. English professor Robert Scholes and computer scientist Andy Van Dam proposed using the university's mainframe computer to teach a course not in physics, engineering, or computer science, but in poetry. The course was organized to create new ways for students to interact with texts, with their instructors, and with each other. Sections of the poem were marked by descriptive tags, or hyperlinks, as we know them today. Students could select these links to find critical reviews, related poems, or other supplementary and contextualizing materials. Students could also add their own commentaries into the system, all of which would be available to their professors and classmates through new links from the central poem. From its inception, this system was designed to enable its users to be both readers and writers, as well as consumers and authors. In many ways, 45 years later, meaning today, digital scholarship is still trying to duplicate, refine, and build on these attempts to interact with content and to create and share new knowledge in collaboration with others. Out of this and other pioneering initiatives at Brown, the Scholarly Technology Group was formed in 1994 as part of the university's central IT services. The group supported the development and use of advanced information technology in academic research, teaching, and scholarly communication. STG, as it was known, pursued this mission for over a decade by exploring new technologies and practices, developing specialized tools and techniques, and providing consulting and project management services to academic projects. These are the very things that we are talking about today in this conference. Though there were periods when several full-time staff were hired on hard and soft money, meaning grant money, the work of STG was not sufficiently integrated into the infrastructure or embedded into the basic service model of central IT. STG was seen as something extra or special, but with limited ongoing support and even more limited blending into the IT organizational structure. As research grant funds diminished and funding from STG was redirected to support other central IT services seen as more essential, the staff and scope of STG services significantly decreased. In 2009, we combined staff from STG with the library's Center for Digital Scholarship Initiatives, along with several subject librarians and other staff, into a cross-functional team that we call the Center for Digital Scholarship. Though loosely structured and reporting to different managers and located in several different locations on campus, team members were a great support to each other as well as to faculty and students. One of the first projects that the new CDS group undertook was bringing the Garibaldi Panorama to life. Measuring about 4.5 feet in height and more than 260 feet in length, the panorama is a relic from the 1860s, painted on both sides and depicting the Italian unification. Italian Studies professor Massimo Riva wanted to incorporate the study of this artifact into his research and teaching, and the library agreed to digitize this massive, very fragile, and basically unusable object. Along with Massimo and computer science professor Andy Van Dam, we began to envision a digital research environment that included a multimedia archive built on the Microsoft Surface. This research environment provided access to a multimedia archive, an amplified display as seen on the Microsoft Surface. It was very interactive, multi-user. There was mapping and annotations possible, and it connected to our digital repository. But the Microsoft Surface, the Surface at that time was like a tabletop, a small table, not the Surface that you may have as your laptop. The Surface was small, and in order for more than 2 or 3 people to see the content, we needed another screen, as devised here. In fact, we needed a really big screen, like this one designed for funding purposes. After meeting with many faculty and other technical staff on campus, we realized that we also needed a space in the library dedicated to creating and displaying digital scholarship. This space would be open to everyone, and its equipment and software would be easy to use. We drew more designs and wrote more proposals. We found a place in the library for the lab, a place that had been used for serials check-in, and in 2012, we were fortunate to find a donor. The Patrick Maw Digital Scholarship Lab and associated staff are now located in the main Humanities and Social Science Library, creating a locus of expertise as well as a physical destination and gathering place on campus. This is the question that I was asked several times this morning. What is the history of building the space at Brown? The DSL, the Digital Scholarship Lab, has been used in research to visualize molecules, to study and compare shards of ancient pottery. It's been used for both traditional and experimental teaching. And the lab has also been used by librarians for workshops and development of their own digital skills and research projects. Equally important has been the lab's use for lectures and presentations by faculty and visiting scholars from across the campus and around the world. As time and experience progressed, we learned that it was not possible for us to anticipate or prescribe the use of the space. We also learned that one space could not serve all purposes, and so we began planning for the production space that we call the Digital Studio. In the spring of 2016, the studio opened, supporting individuals as well as groups engaged in sustained digital work. The studio is staffed by members of CDS as well as by student workers, offering consultation rooms and a small conference room. We also offer audio-video production and editing spaces, as well as 3D production services, some of which you saw this morning. We host groups collaborating together on course assignments and faculty research projects, and sometimes students bring projects that have nothing to do with technology, such as the magazine curating and magazine making workshop organized by a student last winter. As we assess where we are today, we ask ourselves, how can we continue to incrementally move forward, step by step, shifting from project in place to an actual program, a digital scholarship program, and shifting from individual goals to unit-level directions that reflect library-wide priorities and both existing and emerging campus needs. One of the key issues has been to redefine staff vacancies, determining what new services can be added, and also how we can strategically extend our partnerships across campus and beyond. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the partnerships. The Dean of the Faculty, working with faculty directly. CCV is the Center for Computation and Visualization on campus. PSTC is for social science, public social sciences. Computing and Information is our central IT. Computer Science is the Department of Computer Science. Modern Culture and Media, many departments and also technology services on campus. We created a director of CDS position. This position was filled just about 2 months ago, and decided that this important role would be included in the senior library leadership team by mainstreaming CDS into the library's organizational structure and institutionalizing the work of CDS as an integral part of library services. We believe there is a better chance for long-term sustainability and impact. And I just want to reference the earlier part of my talk where I mentioned the Scholarly Technology Group formed in the 1990s. That group was not sustainable because it was not embedded deeply into the structure and the priorities of central IT. We are taking more proactive steps to encourage the involvement of other staff within the library who are highly skilled in the analog world of scholarship. I've talked to several of you today about the importance of not just being interested in digital library staff, but being interested in the work and the contributions of all library staff. Our goal is to help these staff expand their capabilities by building new skills and working alongside CDS colleagues in response to today's participatory digital culture, a culture that is eager to not only search and find content, but also to consume, produce, and interact with media in all of its forms. As the library broadens its involvement across all phases of teaching, research, and learning, we are taking a more active role in working with students and faculty as they explore new ways of conducting research and engaging in scholarly activities. As the boundary of what counts as scholarship changes, both before and after publications, one of the most important services developed by the library is the Brown Digital Repository. The repository enables us to cite research projects. This is an interesting example because a student published this paper but was not able to include the documentation, the video documentation. And so the library was able to provide a DOI, a digital object identifier, a stable location that could be included in the publication materials. We also disseminate unpublished code and data. This is an example of an interactive visual that the publisher was not willing to publish because they were afraid that the technology might not be sustainable over time. And so again, the library published this graph, this chart, this interactive graph and chart. We also use the repository to archive class projects. In this case, the projects are science cartoons developed to engage STEM and non-STEM students and faculty in the creation of science animations. These are very interesting things that are now part of the scholarly record at Brown. We provide access to faculty publications as well as PhD and master's thesis, and more recently, undergraduate, honors, and senior thesis. Again, every concentration program at Brown allows its students to pursue honors programs. Established in 2016, this collection of undergraduate work contains senior thesis, senior capstone projects, and senior honors thesis that students have chosen to make available through the digital repository. As our work with scientific and humanities research has increased, the library is being recognized across campus as having a new role and a more prominent place at the table. For example, we have been invited to work with academic and administrative offices to review and establish policies for access, reuse, retention, and dissemination of Brown's scholarly assets. One important example here is when faculty leave the university, they believe that all of their digital work, all of their scholarship that they've done at Brown belongs to them, but the university claims ownership of this. And so to make sure that we retain a copy of their research and anything else that they've created, the repository is very helpful. The Digital Initiatives Grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation has enabled the library to focus more on supporting Brown faculty as we jointly produce interactive digital monographs that explore new forms of rhetoric and new forms of dissemination. The grant helps us chip away at today's logjams that have prevented progress in new modes and methods of scholarship and publication. These logjams have limited the ways in which scholarship is read, reused, shared, and preserved, and libraries and barriers that have prevented us from considering and creating new approaches to tenure and promotion practices. This, again, is the cycle of scholarly communication. And I think these are the very reasons that digital scholarship exists and the work of libraries is so important. We recognize that throughout history, various attempts to change the forms and channels of scholarly communication have not always been met with open arms. Here we see from many years ago, looking at a manuscript, nice, the scholar says, but as long as there are readers, there will be scrolls, right? So things have changed over time. Sometimes it's hard for people to accept change. Yet today's students and faculty around the globe need to read, write, and think in this digital age. And my message is that libraries can and must help with this. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Is that true? Yes.
Any question?
It's been a long day. You've been very attentive to all of these things. Yes.
Rosanna Cantavella, University of Valencia, thank you so much for such an illuminating talk. I was particularly interested in how Brown deals with copyright problems, especially if you could elaborate a bit on the question of who owns our research, whether the researcher or the institution, and whether you are advocate for Creative Commons licenses, for example, and open science and open access. Thank you.
So that's a big question altogether, but let's take it apart. First of all, questions around copyright, if we want to talk about copyright, the reuse of materials that have been copyrighted. Brown deals with this as all other universities do. In other words, there are laws about reuse of copyrighted materials. Now, the question about who in the university community owns the research, that we often refer to as intellectual property. Who owns the intellectual property of, if I am a faculty member and I create research? This is what I was mentioning earlier. At Brown, the university owns the research property. It does not mean that faculty cannot publish this and have a copyright on the paper or the book that they write. But as a faculty member, a researcher, if I leave Brown, the university owns my data, my research, especially scientific data. So that's a question that is handled somewhat differently depending on the kind of university that you're in. So I don't know how it is here, but copyright and intellectual property we think of in kind of two different ways. Was there more to your question? Yes. So Creative Commons is used freely by choice, by faculty, by students, if they put things in the repository or if they share their information or their research online, they can include a Creative Commons license. They're not required to do that, but of course we think that is very good because it allows greater use and reuse of materials. Yes. Other questions? Maybe you need some more tea and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is it number 2? No, I don't know which one is. That's number 1. That's it. Yep. Okay. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough? Yep. Okay, I'll be sitting down right now because I have something called atrial fibrillation, and I have that right now. It's something with my heart. So I'm going to be sitting down and just taking it easy. Well, the second part of today is about reframing the library and trying to build an indoor IoT living lab. One second. So, and it's what we call smart library. This one doesn't work? No. I'll just use this. Okay. This is also a statement that I've been thinking about a lot about. And we really had to create our own future with this smart library. I will not be recording right now, but I have been. And this is my family again. But this right here, ironically, smart library is a lot about putting up sensors in the library. And a couple of months ago, I had a sensor put into myself. It's a pacemaker. So now I'm officially a self-tracker, not just by my pacemaker that looks at my heart the whole time, but also my watch, and that kind of follows me. But enough about that. This is a book I recently read, and I thought when I was going to Spain, everybody would have read it. But I found out that not everybody has read this book. I was very fascinated with it. And it gave me a good view of the history of Spain and Barcelona. And this is a good example of how history has been recorded. It's been recorded through text and pictures and stuff like that. And a couple of years ago, everything was digitized. And that was actually just the text being digital. We're going to the next phase, which is datafication. And what that means is that reality is recorded through senses, and that will be recorded for history, and so history can be relived and can be relived in the future, and look back at that in another way. So it will not just be text in the future, it will be data representing history. So the agenda for this speak right now will be first why we're building it, the implementation, 3 areas in focus, and some final notes. So as I said earlier, this library was built for books and not for people. And that was a big change for our library, that we became a really big success. It really changed in 2013 when we rebuilt the library then. We went from 100,000 visitors a year to 1 million visitors a year. And we have about 2,500 visitors a day, which means that it's almost 1/4 of all students that comes to our library every day. So, of course, that created issues with heat. A lot of people generate a lot of heat, and our ventilation system was not good enough for that. A lot of people generate a lot of smell. Our ventilation couldn't handle that either. And a lot of people create a lot of noise. And all the books were taken out of the library, as I said we did 15 years ago. So there was not really any books to help with the acoustics. And also, as I said earlier, the light was built for books. So it was just enough light so you could pull the book down from the shelves, which is about 250 lux. But good reading light is about 450 lux. So we needed to change that too. And we became aware, much more aware of the comfort level of our students. That research shows that you can learn, you have a much bigger chance of learning something in a room when you feel comfortable. And some of the comfort comes from the indoor climate. So, and it's also comes from feeling safe. It comes from feeling at home. So this really became a mantra for us to reach people's comfort level, so we could make the optimal conditions for learning. We still had these restrictions, as I was saying, big events, and so we had to build a flexible space where we could take the furniture out and put it back in. So that's what we had to think about. And when we started to think about installing all these sensors, we also became aware of the Internet of Things and how this is going to grow exponentially. And it's going to be a huge industry, just like VR and augmented reality. So we figured, okay, this is definitely something we want to support, and we want to support our students in this case. Our rector was also saying that he wanted everybody at our university to spark innovation. So this was also an incentive for us to do something different and to reframe the library. We're actually number 9 right now in Europe, which we have become over the last 5 years. And it is not just our university. The government is doing a lot to motivate everybody and to make investments so Denmark can be in front digitally. So this is from a report that came out last year from the government. And on the left here, you can see many of the technologies that they have aimed at. And in the report too, it shows how big or how fast the industry is changing these days, the business model of companies. or a technology. You can see the phone, it took 75 years to reach 50 million users, but only 7 days for Super Mario Run to reach 50 million users. It just goes so quick. So, but it's also over fast. So this is where Denmark really wants to be ahead. So, and right here on the left, you can see from a report from World Economic Forum that Denmark is actually in front when we talk about the digital development. You can see that on the left. And you can actually see on the right too that Spain is actually the country in the world that is the fastest growing within this. So you're definitely doing a lot of the right things here in Spain. Denmark is not quite as quick within the development or it's not going as quick as we want it to. So this is what the government really wants to do. You can also see over on the right that it's only 20% of the students coming out of our universities that are coming out with STEM competences. And that is not enough. We have to have more than that. You can see actually Spain has about 25% of your students coming out with STEM competences. So a lot of motivation to build this smart library. So, but it started out with a lot of workshops. Actually, it started out way back in 2013 when we had all these issues. But then we started having workshops with students, with researchers. How should we build this living lab? What would it take for them to use it? And they came up with some ideas. They came up with technologies that they wanted to use. So it has only been with their help that we have come so far. And as I showed you earlier, we came up with this vision for the smart library. And the good thing about this is that we're developing the library, and on the same time we're actually boosting the chances of the students learning. And when learning is very essential for us as a library, it's very essential. We don't just want to deliver information. We want to create learning in the heads of the students and the researchers. So after a lot of years and applying for the money to renovate the library, it finally came through last summer. We closed down for 4 months, and we were only allowed to have 349 people at a time in the library. It was just built for books, not for people. So we had to build fire escapes, routes and doors and all that. And now we can be 1,300 people in the library. Up top you can see some glass in the atrium. And that was for 2 reasons, just so we can divide the library up into 2 fire zones, so we could be 1,300 people, and also because of the acoustics from all the events in the library. We were hoping that would help too, and it has helped. So, but we have decided we are not a quiet library. We want dialogue in our library, so we have we might have still a few, but I'm taking all the signs down that says shh. So it's not a quiet library. Right here you can see up in the ceiling we have put up cable channels where the lighting is put on, and that is part of the infrastructure that's very important for our smart library, because then you can put up sensors very easy. You can just put them up there and there's power right there. You don't need an electrician to come and put up new sensors. So we put together a small video of the renovation. Sound. We need the sound on. Time. So we opened up in November again, and the 3,600 square meters were improved with new acoustic ceilings, ventilation system that can ventilate only where there are people and when it's needed. So it can detect from temperature and the CO2 level in the room if it's needed, if ventilation is needed, and the amount that is needed. A lot of extra power sockets, you probably all heard that the students wanted. And then of course, sprinkler system, fire alarm systems, all that for safety. The light is very important. It's dynamic light, it's LED. And this was one of the arguments that we were using for the estate, that if they wanted to put in new lights, then 2 years from now, they would have that money back in savings. So we're actually saving about 200,000 euros each year in power that we're saving, just from the lighting. Because we're open 24/7, and that meant that there was light all night long, all day long. So, but dynamic means that it follows the daylight outside. So it's reddish in the morning, it's bluish in the afternoon, and then it turns red again at night. And this is something our body actually likes, to follow the light and the curve of the light outside. And it can also see if it's sunny and there's a lot of sun coming into the library, then the light dims down because we don't need as much light. And we found out a lot about light talking to professors at our university, that what the impact of light is. And so, and we said, okay, what can we do to turn our library into a research facility for you? And they said, well, divide it into zones so we can test different things out that takes place in the library and how people react to different lighting in the library. So we did that. We divided it into 27 zones. 5 of them are manual, so students themselves can control it depending on what situation that they're in. Some of them might have to turn in the paper early in the morning and have to stay up all night. Then they'll turn up the strength, so the lux level comes over 450, and then your body will start to create adrenaline. That'll keep you awake. Same thing, you turn the bluish on in the light, and your body thinks it's still day. So you'll be able to work all night. And the red is something you can use in situations where you have group discussions or meetings, because we're all more likely to talk to each other when the light is red, because we all look better in red light. So, and we're more likely to talk to people that look good than not. So, and that's what I'm talking about when we need to talk to researchers that understand what they're researching. So then we've put up a bunch of sensors, iBeacons, which are Bluetooth antennas. They work like indoor GPS. Microphones to track the noise level all over the library, temperature, humidity, and one of the most important things is cameras. These cameras, we have about 100 cameras tracking everything that goes on in the library anonymously. So everybody is just a dot, but it picks up data and creates data on how movement takes place by the 2,500 people there every day. And that can be used for research too. In correlation often with the indoor climate, it's very important to researchers to have it's like to find out what's real. And all their measurements right now, they're not really real. The camera is the best sensor to sense what is real. So it tracks everything that goes on. Demographics, when you walk into the library, we track gender and age of people coming in, and heat map, track map, and it just came out with a new algorithm that can track chairs, tables. So now we have the opportunity of seeing when is there an available seat, and give that service to students even before they come to the library of where are the available seats. And maybe in the future, very soon, we can predict when there will be available seats. So using artificial intelligence to predict what's going to happen in the library. And when we have this down, we can use it to the rest of the university. This is an example of the track map that we can do. We can see what areas of the library is being used and which are not being used. And if certain areas of the library is not being used, then we can start to have a discussion of why is that place not being used as much as the other spaces? And might we want to do something else, change the furniture or the design of the space? So to use all these senses, we have come up with this vision of how we can, a little bit about how we can use the senses. Some of that is actually what some of our students right now is working on in the augmented reality project. Yes, I'll pass that. To control all this project, we of course are aiming at the strategic objectives of the university. So we're following this plan right here. And I've shown you earlier the objectives to create competitive experimental facilities. and some other objectives. So these are the three main areas that we have decided to focus on in this project, because these are the areas that we think will help the university in the best way. It's the learning common, data innovation, and facility management. And we do know they overlap a little bit, but it just shows that everything is connected when it comes to data. So the learning common is about comfort. And as I was saying earlier, the comfort level of our students is very important to us, because learning is the very essential part of why our students should use our library. So we want to offer students to be able to come into the library and to either find their comfort level, meaning the temperature is right, the noise level is right, CO2 level is right, the lighting is right, and maybe the amount of people is right. So, and if they can't find that, maybe they can go to a space and they can adjust that. So, and we'll use technology to make these services available. And of course, ergonomics is very important for us. And we're working together with companies, and I'll get back to that about the economics. But what we've decided is we don't want to buy cheap furniture anymore. We just want to go with the best furniture there is, because we want to give the students the best chances of learning while they're sitting there in our library. So better to invest in good furniture and have fewer of it, I think. So we have decided to start up creating an app that can bring some of these new services in use. To start out with, we have put up 12 touchscreens in the library, so students can walk into the library and see the current status in the 27 zones and maybe find their comfort level that way. So when it comes to services, we really want to use these sensors to create these new services. And it's pretty much about answering these when, where, who, how for students. And we can use the technology to do that. Wayfinding, and we're working on that, but it's not just going to be just a library and finding your way around the library. It'll be used at the whole university. And right now we're using the Wi-Fi access points to track where people are moving, or where the phones are moving, or the computers are moving, because it's them asking for Wi-Fi all the time. And that combined with technology like iBeacons, then we can do a very good wayfinding tool indoor too. We'll be using it, all this data too, for wayfinding, like finding free computers, and for signs in the library. We wouldn't need signs anymore if you could just see it all through a screen. But it'll be a couple of years before that comes along. The wayfinding project I was telling you earlier about the books, finding the books. One service that students were looking for is this Watch Me, Don't Watch Me. As an example, we have open 24/7. So many of our students are on campus at night, studying there. And sometimes they actually want a security guard or somebody to watch them. So they actually want a button they could press and say, okay, watch me till I get home, or till I leave campus. Another service they want is when they have to go to the bathroom or something else, either they have to leave their stuff at their place, or they have to pack it all up and maybe have lost their seat when they come back. They want us to use the technology to solve that too. The second area of focus that we have is data innovation. I was talking about you earlier about what will be the 21st century skills that our students need. And we're not sure, but we do know that for engineers, data and understanding data will be very important. So about building the infrastructure in the library was a lot about putting up gateways that the sensor data can go through in the library. You can go through the Wi-Fi, you can go through Bluetooth, the connectivity like Sigfox and LoRa as tools so students can come right from the street and put up their sensor and they can get data from it right away. At DTU, there's about 300,000 sensors in all the buildings at campus. And right now we are collecting most of that data. So over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of programming so we can collect the data. We don't know if it's going to be used, but data is going to be essential and so worth so much in the future that our researchers are going to look back and see, okay, how has the history been of this building, the indoor climate in this building and stuff. So, and this will be made available as open data too, not just for researchers, students at DTU, but for everybody. So this is our first draft data model that we are still working on trying to connect. The red ones there are all the sensors that we've put up. And right now we have tried to connect them all to a Microsoft service called Azure, which is probably the best IoT cloud solution that exists right now. And from Azure, the students can build on top of that data. They can build apps, web services, and many other things right on top of that. So we're just trying to make it easy for people to use data. And we use Figshare at our university as a data repository. And we will do data dumps from Azure into Figshare when it becomes historical. So we can save it for later. And we'll give it a DOI when we put it into Figshare. So then it can be used for research and for articles. And all of this will be connected to our library system, so when you search for something in our library system, you can also get packages of data. Yeah. So lots of data is going to be collected, and I see it very much like a tree stump here, that the amount of data is just growing and growing. And I have heard somebody say that 90% of all the data that is stored in the world right now has been stored within the last 2 years. Only 10% is from before that. So the amount of data is just incredible, and it will just be incredible in the future. And it will be gold in the future. So the red lines here are showing that different ways of using this data. So you might have a researcher wanting to look at data from the beginning, when the tree was just so small, and then all the way till now. And then other researchers might want to look across and look at temperature, CO2 level at a certain time, maybe 2018. So it's just a representation of that. And we have had the discussion at our university whether you should only save research data. But we don't agree, because data might become very important for research, but they don't know it yet. So we're saving it even though it has not been used for research. And we do believe that data is going to be very important for us as a library in the future, and that we as libraries play a big role in democracy. And so data is not just something that should be stored by big companies and owned by big companies. This should be stored and saved by libraries and be open data. Yes, we are also trying a little test on how this data that we're collecting, how does that match up with user UX Lib. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like this right here is the method behavioral mapping, where somebody has been sitting in the library watching what goes on at the desk. And at the same time, we've used data from the sensors to see if we can get to the same conclusions with data from sensors and from the human eye. And I must say, I don't think we're quite there yet with sensors, because the human eye also has a brain behind it and is very subjective and can analyze on the same time. But we'll get there with artificial intelligence. But I believe that it's methods that can be combined to find out what really goes on in the library. Many others, like LIBA, is looking at what skills are needed for library professionals, the same as us. But I don't know for sure what skills are needed, but we are just jumping into it at our university, at our library. This is a report, the Horizon report from 2017, saying where should all we libraries be at this moment, and is saying right now that we should all be working with big data and digital scholarship technologies. So, and I don't think many of us are doing it, but this is what we actually should be doing. And right here they're saying library service platforms, meaning that our library should be on many different platforms and it should be personalized. So it's much easier for you as a user to get the information that you want. So that's something to work on. And of course, artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. We're not working with artificial intelligence yet, but we're hoping very soon to get started on it. So at our library, we have started up trying to give our employees skills to help students and researchers. We have started up something called DTU Hack Lab in the library, where students, employees at the library, and researchers together can just meet up and help each other, co-creating knowledge. And you don't have to be very good, you just have to come and want to learn. And we have arranged a couple of meetings too for library professionals in the Scandinavian countries to train them to be data scientists. So here's a
Why are
little
you here today?
sound. No technicians? Oh,
Why are you here today?
I'm attending this hack because I want to learn from the students and I want to share what we are working on in the library also to the students.
well, you probably couldn't hear it. This is one of our librarians that was attending one of the hack labs. So, as what I stumbled upon the other day from Code Academy was this, that this is actually the best, one of the best jobs that are out there right now for students is to be a data scientist. So we are aiming at some of the right things. And we do have a computer, an institute called DTU Compute, which is very much focused on programming. But programming is going to be for everybody. It's a skill that we believe that everybody needs and not just for certain people. And everybody needs to have a certain amount of skills within this and with working with data. So we are aware of the GDPR and the restrictions that might give us, but we're working close with our legal department at DTU, and they're ensuring that everything that we do is okay. We're also very aware that the IoT sector is a new sector and therefore very easy to hack. But we can't hold back. We'll just have to start and see what happens. So, and the third thing within data innovation is to work with the industry and people around us, working with companies. So we are already part of an EU project called Lightning Metropolis, where we are an example of a new innovating lighting with sensors. So this has meant that we are in connection with different institutes and researchers at the university studying light and local companies. We are also working with the largest furniture manufacturer in Denmark, and they are willing to give us free furniture. And what we have to give back to them is data on how that furniture has been used. So they can test their furniture out in our living lab, because we have all the data. And we're also working with them in building in sensors into the furniture so we can actually get better measurements of how this furniture has been moved around, how often has it been used, do our students like red instead of blue, what kind of furniture do they like? So this is a way to work with the local companies and also together with researchers studying indoor climate at our university. The third area of focus is facility management. And that is a big issue in the future. And this is really where our facility, our campus service will save a lot of money. So 10 years from now, we know that there's probably going to be 10,000 extra students at DTU. We're going to be twice as many students. but we're not going to have more space and we're not going to have more funding. So we have to use the buildings better. We can't have seats that are available that nobody knows of. We can't have group rooms that people have left even though they have booked it. We can't have auditoriums that are empty when there's so many students. So we really have to work on that. So that's what we're going to use all the sensors to help with. And optimization, this is, of course, very aiming at being sustainable. We're saving a lot of energy for all of DTU and only have lights when the people ventilate when needed and only heat and cool when needed. And the last one within that is allocation. When do we actually need staff in the libraries? We can use these sensors to detect when there will be people, and we can use the data to predict when will there be people, because we know when they leave the auditoriums, and we know if they're going towards the library. As an example too, we looked at the data from how the toilets had been used. In January. And right here in the corner, you can actually see the entrance to the toilets on the 3 floors. So we try to count how many times the toilets have been used. So, and the yellow line is actually how many people are using the whole library, times 10. But you can see the curve kind of follows each other. But the big difference is between the red and the blue. The red is on the ground floor and the blue is on the first floor. And you can see the toilets, the blue ones, are being used much more than the red ones. And we keep having complaints about the toilets being not that clean. So what can we do about that? We also looked into the whole month, and you can see there's a big change between the weeks in that month. So right now, we are working with the company that has the contract of cleaning the whole university. And we're giving them, we are working with them, what sensors should we put into the toilets so we can actually only clean when it's needed and not on a schedule every day at 2 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, but actually when it's needed. And we might not have that many toilets at the library, but the whole university probably has about 5,000 toilets. So we can use this principle at the rest of the university to save money. So, and right here, it's a little visualization of the CO2 level in the library, and we could see that one of the sensors at the bottom here was unstable. And that actually means that the ventilation in the library was not very accurate in that corner of the library. And when the CO2 level is too high, you can't concentrate that well. So this was a way for us to say to the estate or the campus service, you got to fix that. You got to change that sensor so the ventilation is right. Otherwise, they would never have figured it out. So some final notes on our Smart Library project. There's this report from Delft University where there's a team there have looked into smart technologies at universities around the world and has written about it. So if you want to look into that, you can do that. Some of our challenges with building this smart library has been changing our vision of a library. and because this is not something that libraries usually do. So it has been a challenge. Also rethinking what creates value for our users. And that, as I said earlier, is very much in co-creation with the students. And repositioning the library internally. We want the library to be the heart of the university, and that's why we want to position ourselves with this research facility too, and being involved with everything that takes place about data. But we still don't know how to organize ourselves, but we will figure that out in the future. So there are a few barriers. There's always lack of talent when it comes to this, I think, because it's a public institution, and most people that are data scientists or have skills within this, they can, as I showed earlier, go out and get a lot of money in private companies. So, and there's always the fear of moving forward, but we've just decided let's do it, and we'll see what happens. We might fail, but then we have tried. And then, of course, the GDPR and data ethics. Oh, wrong way. But the potential by building this was just so big that we couldn't ignore it, and we just had to do it. By collecting this data, we're hoping that maybe we can correlate this with data from how the students are actually doing in school. Maybe we can assess the impact of the learning of the students on their grades, on retention. We can assess our own services and say, we shouldn't have these services anymore. If there's no reason to have exhibitions, if nobody's looking at them, why have them? And I've been over most of the other ones. It's working with people, and innovation, and hopefully an inspiration to all of you. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Have you got any data about user satisfaction?
User what?
Oh, yeah.
User satisfaction. Have you conducted any
Yes.
survey, or it's too early?
Yes, we have. Yeah. We have recently from the international students. Every year every other year they have to measure it, and it's the best of everything at the university. It's like 94% has thumbs up for it. But besides that, we did do a survey a couple of years ago with questionnaires, and we sent out this questionnaire for all students at the university, but I think 4%, 5% answered, and we can't use that anymore. Statistical sampling, I didn't mention it earlier today, but statistical sampling does not work anymore. You can't just take a little amount and then just multiply by 1,000 and hope that that's the right result. You could see that with the Trump campaign when he became president. So we're not going to do surveys anymore like that. It's too much work and it's not very accurate, we think. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you.
Sí. Vale, antes unos avisos antes de iros. Hay una visita ahora guiada que empezará un poquito más tarde porque vamos con retraso, y ir con mi compañera Sonia. Y luego respecto a esta noche os explico un poco cómo va. Para ir a la visita y luego a la cena estarán